laughs, you're in for a treat because we've got them right here. Flip City Magazine. Remember MEAD magazine? Then it went woke? Well, don't worry. Flip City has no chance of going woke. That's right. 4 times a year, you'll get an actual printed magazine full of jokes, stories, comics, and more, all about today's pop culture, entertainment, and woke politics. Flip City takes terrible entertainment trends we love to hate with hilarious parodies of Lord of the Rings, Stranger Things, The Walking Dead, Star Trek, Hunters, and more. Trust me when I say there is nothing else like Flip City on the market. So subscribe today. It will be delivered in print, or you can even get it digitally if you're one of those wacky Zoomers. Either way, follow our link and sign up today, and if you put in midnight, you get an extra 10% off. Check out Flip City Magazine today.
We're gonna get a little bit crazy, wild and maybe even vulgar, if you please. It's after dark and we're gonna light it up. Got some fun in store for you, no tease. It's time for Midnight Edge. After dark, a little naughty, will hopefully make you chuckle, but we ain't trying to hurt nobody, so get ready quick on the double, cause it's time for Midnight Edge. After dark.
Welcome everybody to Midnight Edge After Dark Live. That's right, every Tuesday and Thursday at 6-ish time. Oh, look who's here. Mikey! Mikey's here.
Look at that. The greatest YouTuber on earth.
How you doing, Mikey?
What's up, boys? Tax season is over, and now we go into tax season part 2, which is a little bit more easy to control. As Tom says, I'm always in tax season.
Yeah, I know.
But now the rush is gone and the spring break with the kid is over. We saw Godzilla versus Kong. Tom was right about everything in his assessment. He was 100%.
What Max think of it though? That's the big question,
bro. I gotta,
because he's the real audience for this.
I gotta upload his reaction. I gotta do that today. I gotta do that tonight.
Oh, you actually videotaped it? Oh, hell yeah!
Yeah, I walked out of the theater and I turned on the record. I said, "What do you think?" I mean, he would have gone on for an hour, but I'm like, you know, I had to cut him off by the second minute. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to make a short here. Now it's the video. You know what I mean? Not that I know the difference between a short and a video, people. On YouTube. Mexican Iron Man does not know the difference because he is not a YouTuber.
That's true.
Yeah,
we're glad to have you here because it's always a rare treat, but a treat indeed.
Well, I missed a lot while I was gone.
I know.
And you were trying to reach out to me, and I was blowing you off because I was having fun with Max. My apologies to you. Yeah. I owe you a huge apology.
You don't owe me shit.
No, I owe you an apology because I didn't realize the heat you were under, and I thought it was just another little grifty grift, and I got all caught up late last night between midnight and 3 a.m.
Well, let's not get into all that business.
Oh, we don't need to. I just want to say that I'm glad to be back. I'm sorry I blew you off last week, and I was just super excited to be with my kid for a week. So
no, I appreciate it, man. And we also have, and I saw him rocking out on that video, man. That was amazing. You got a little rock star in your hands.
What do you think? Like, as a professional, your opinion matters to me. Like,
he has got the stage presence. He is owning the mic at his age already. Psh, no doubt, you got a little star on your hands there. Whether he gets into music or acting or something. He's got the bug. You could tell he's got no butterflies or anything. He's out there. Just, you can tell he's in his zone.
Well, it'd be my dream. I'm probably going to build a mini studio here for him here on Hilton Head. It would be my dream if somebody you can come out and work with them for a day or two. I mean, that'd be amazing to me.
That'd be fun.
Because I can't. That's not my forte. You know what I mean?
But yeah, check out Mikey's channel. He's got a video up there now. Because it was like a band camp thing you took him to, or
so it was NAM, the National Association of Music Merchants, the annual convention in Anaheim. Tens of thousands of people go annually. It's an industry trade conference, and his band was selected to perform in Connecticut, both on the main stage floor and the actual outdoor main stage.
Oh, so this is something he does all the time. Then I thought this was maybe just like a program.
No, he's in a volunteer. I mean, it's an after school band, pickup band. So
Yeah, but they
'cause
still
don't have
did
music
pretty
programs
good.
in high school anymore, or regular school.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I pay for him to go to a music school, so
Yeah.
outside of school.
But I'm glad you do because he clearly likes it.
Well, thanks for having me. Sorry to take over the show.
And
No,
he's good
that's
taste in
great.
music too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We also have a script doctor here. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, plugging away, getting things done, getting prepped for my eventual flights out to the United States. I am taking airline recommendations
Finally?
that are reliable airlines that don't fall apart mid-flight.
Delta.
Because I'm
car?
trying to convince my girlfriend to come with me. She is still deathly afraid of flying right now. So yeah, the more
Are you going to
Take a
LA?
bus.
no, not directly. I'll probably be heading out to visit Mike first before I do that, and then heading all over the place. Actually, there's lots of states I want to visit and catch up with people out there. So that's.
Are you
that's
going to be on the
excellent.
East Coast at any point?
Yeah, I'll be on the East Coast for at least 3 of the visits I've got planned. Yeah.
Like New York area kind of thing, or not your thing?
I love New York, but I'll probably be making that as my stop back as I head back to Canada.
Yeah, but no, he's coming to see me, Price. So you come to Hilton Head and you can see my script doctor on Hilton Head. No, he's mine. My script, mine.
By the way, Mikey, do you know that I sent you a message and I said, "Hey, are you coming to the stream?" It was just random, and you didn't even read it, and then you were on the stream, which was great.
I wasn't expecting him today. I knew tax season's over, but
What are you
like
talking about? I'm
it's
looking
always
right at
tax
it. Did I
season.
not click on it? I'm looking right at it.
Oh,
You're talking about this one right here? Oh, let me click on it. Here, let me click on it.
Twitter
Twitter's
works
been
that
odd.
way.
There you go.
Messages that I've been getting receiving don't pop up at all on my web or my phone. I have to like refresh every time.
Yeah. So we also have with us Price of Reason. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Glad to have you here. And last but not least, all 32 flavors of Nick Weiser. And we're going, speaking of East, we're going eastbound and down tonight.
Oh, yes, we are. I'm excited about this one. This is part 4 of our Burt Reynolds month, and it's a good way to go out pedaling to the metal, or as Sally Field says, metal to the pedal. But yeah, happy to be here. I'm glad we have the great bevy of topics to talk tonight, because I think the Henry Cavill one is definitely a worthy topic of discussion. And hello,
Indeed.
chat. Thanks for being here and listening to Mead.
We got CC, who's been a member for 19 months. He's not on the panel today because he went and hurt himself skiing. So
He'll
he
be
will actually
fine.
be out for a little while, but we hope he has a speedy recovery.
Get better,
Not as
bud.
fast as he got hurt anyway, but
Yeah, that was pretty brutal seeing the photos. I'm like, oh man,
yeah.
homeboy got it seriously.
Yeah, he mucked up his nose pretty good and his hand. So hopefully he'll be back sooner than later, though. Speedy recovery, my friend. And I seen you in the chat here. We got Goddess of Whim. How you doing, Goddess? Been a member for 36 months. I believe that's 3 years if my math is right. That's crazy. That's crazy. Thank you for being here, Goddess of Whim. We appreciate the support. So yeah, the main topic of today, there's no real article to go along with it, but this is kind of based on a post that I had made the other day when we had kind of seen Henry Cavill have another semi-high profile film not only fail but flat out flop at the box office. In fact, this one did worse than Argyle in comparison, some were saying. So I gotta ask, and then this is a conversation Script and I have had a few times on different panels in different ways. But we both have come to the same kind of conclusion and asking ourselves the same question. Is Henry Cavill really a movie star? Is he really as big as people think he is as far as popularity? So I'm going to throw this out to the panel here, and we're going to talk a little bit about it, but I'll save Script and I for last, since y'all kind of know how we feel about this. But Mikey, since you're joining us out of the blue, and you are a reformed Snyderite.
No, you know what, Tom? You need it with a little bit of respect. Can you please refer me as a recovering Snyder bro-ho, please?
Okay, that's better, I guess, somehow.
And that
Anyway,
would be Mr. Mexican Snyder
but
bro-ho.
just to be upfront, I don't think anybody here on the panel has any ill will towards Henry. I don't think anybody dislikes him as an actor, and this is not anybody taking any kind of shots one way or the other. So I just want to put that out there for right away. But Mikey, Do you really think that Henry Cavill is a movie star?
No, I think he's a Hollywood actor that gets to star in various movies.
That's an interesting point of view.
Meaning that, look, my favorite role of him is actually as the bad guy in Mission Impossible 47 or whichever the hell it was when he was in.
I agree. That was a great.
Yeah,
he
that
was
was
really
probably
good at that
like
role.
of all the roles he's had, definitely more than Man of Steel, definitely more like of all the roles he's had, my favorite role of him is the bad guy against Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 47.
Well, you know why?
Not 3.
That was probably his most challenging acting role because he had to pretend that Tom Cruise and him were the same height.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was-
So, this question is a little weird for me because if someone said first of all, if someone says who's a Hollywood star, I don't know if I can name 3 people on that list. Because I'm old enough to know what a real star was. Like I'm old enough to remember that I'm old to, like Stallone would put out a movie and all my friends are going. Schwarzenegger would put out a movie, all my friends are going. You know what I mean? Like going back, and I'm not saying they did particularly good movies. I'm just saying like there would be someone's doing a movie and you didn't really care what the movie was. You just went to go see them. We are so far gone from that. Like I think Henry Cavill is a fun and great actor who happens to star in various things, some of which are good, some of which aren't so good. But I think the days of us going to something because someone is in it, I don't know if those days are around anymore. Like even Mission Impossible, you can argue that Tom Cruise is a movie star, but I think people are more addicted. I'm not addicted to Tom Cruise as much as I'm addicted to like the Mission Impossible franchise.
Right.
That's my answer.
Well, that's a good. I mean, that's.
But I will tell you, you and Andre, whoever was having this convo on Midnight Sedge in the morning yesterday, was it you and Andre that were talking about like?
Well, we all were, but yeah.
But about like why did people? So I was gonna go see this movie this weekend. It was on my docket. I planned to go Saturday. I didn't make it. I ended up going to the movie Sunday for a variety of reasons because involving my kid. I had to handle some crap. I didn't go to this movie because of his co-star, a name that I don't even want to speak in what he said, basically about people like me.
And that's kind of a side point.
And I literally was planning on seeing this movie this weekend. And I happened to talk to Paulie, and he happened to mention that he recommended on your Midnight Sedge stream to go see this movie called The Long Game. And I'm not particularly a big champion of movies about minorities for the sake of movies about minorities. I went and saw The Long Game, had a great time with it, didn't regret the decision. But that money that I spent wasn't spent on this other movie. And the choice was really easy for me. Like I went to go see a bunch of no-name actors versus a movie that had a star in it, if you want to call Richson that someone that I know hates me. So he can go F himself and F his movie, and maybe I'll watch it on streaming someday. Maybe, probably not.
Right.
And it was on my docket. It was on my docket to watch. It goes back to what Script has said many times. Actors are stupid, actors are dumb, and they need to shut the F up and not talk because their opinions don't matter because they're just modern day minstrels and they need to put on their little clown outfit and they need to dance for me for $7 to $10, depending if I go to matinee or nighttime show.
They're also easily manipulated by journalists. Like that's the other part.
Well, they're easily manipulated.
Well,
by
and you're talking about Richson, of course. I don't know if you mentioned his name or not.
Yeah.
He's actually in the movie too.
I read his interview, and I will say this. I don't think he hates people. I think he hates an institution that supports things that he's very much against. I think he worded it terribly, and I'm not going to defend him any further.
Did you read his response, though? That was the other thing
it's
that really
the
didn't
Instagram
help.
stuff that is the thing that I thought was worse. Like the Hollywood Reporter article, he basically fell into it hook, line, and sinker. Like exactly what the journalist was looking for, just to make a name for themselves and get hits. Definitely.
Well, his response also didn't help the situation. I don't know if you saw that or not.
It did not. I mean,
yeah,
this stuff he said about the police, he completely obfuscated what most other celebrities say, which is like we shouldn't let the one bad apple spoil the batch. Cops should be held accountable when they break the law, and the good cops that are there to do something need to have the support of the community to actually get something done to get rid of those bad cops. Right.
Well,
like
I've heard
the normal talking point, but he did not do that at all. He went completely AWOL.
Well, and I've heard a lot of people use the excuse of Richson for not going to see the movie, or at least in our community. Even Culture was kind of defending it in that respect. And I would argue that I don't think it matters because I don't think many people outside of the police community and our community know anything and even know who Richson is by name, let alone what he said. And not only that, I think this is, to me, I think it's it says even more about Henry is that his star power couldn't even carry it to that point, I guess is where I was coming from initially with my points yesterday on the show. But Price, let's get your response to this question overall before I get too deep into that. We'll get back around to the Richardson stuff too, I think.
Are you talking about Henry Cavill?
Yeah. Well, do you think he's really a movie star? Do you think he's had enough shots now to kind of have his shot and it's just not working out for him? Or what do you think?
You know, I think it's a combination of a number of different things. I mean, I wouldn't say it's not like when I look at him, I think he's as good as of an actor as like Christian Bale or something. It's not that I'm saying he's the best actor in the world, but I think that maybe if he would have been around during maybe 20 years ago, somebody like him would have been for action movies, things like that. I certainly think that he could have found a good place for himself. That example of him in Mission Impossible, I thought he was good in that movie. I think that there was something that could have been done with him. It's just, you know, a series of bad luck. You know, I think he takes movies that maybe aren't the best for him. I don't know what movie would be considered a good one for him, but I think that he's been taking stuff. I can't think of one movie that he's taken that really showcases him as this kind of star and that you really want to go see that movie. Maybe the only one was Superman. And that one I thought he did fine in. It's just that I don't know that he's right for every role, for every type of movie. I think that I think that there are movies out there for him. I'm not saying he's the biggest star, but I think he can be a star, and maybe he just needs a better agent or better management team, and needs to pick his movies better.
Well, somebody said that in my original as response to my original X tweet about his agency. I'm like, well, yeah, it probably would help if he had somebody who was either A, not trying to fuck him, or fuck one of their other clients, right? Like, so that's to me there's a huge problem there, because there is a point to be made there. Has he really had the roles to really push him out there to be a star? That's a good point, Price. Nick, what about you?
My reasoning's kind of along the lines of prices, in a better time and obviously a better agent and better movies and stories and meritocracy actually mattering. I feel like he would do much better. And it just seems like he was the right actor at the wrong place at the wrong time, to really sum it up. And that's unfortunate because when you see he has good material to work with, he can shine. He really can. And we're never gonna really know like what his true potential can be as far as a movie star. But in this day and age, he's absolutely not a movie star, and that's really sad because it seems like he has a dedicated base, but it did not translate into box office numbers because, well, sometimes the internet could be smoke and mirrors, whether it's for things we don't like and unfortunately for things that we do like. And most of us do like Henry Cavill as a person and or an actor, and yeah, this is just something that didn't pan out. It sucks, but sometimes that's just the nature of the beast. And I don't know what this spells out for his career. I really don't. It sucks though, because
The problem is, I think. Sorry to sorry. I didn't mean to
go take it away.
I want to just say that the problem is after all of these flops, you even like the public has sort of psychologically you're thinking if he's in this movie, maybe it's not going to be a good movie. And that's really not a good place to be. I mean, that previous one, that Argyle one, I knew that one would be crap. I knew it. I knew from the second I just even heard what it is and saw that trailer, I knew it would be crap. Why would he sign on to do such a movie? I don't know. But signing on to keep doing crap is not going to help your career. And this one, I don't really know. I like Guy Ritchie, but to do the thing where it's something about the marketing of it, or I don't know what it is. I wasn't really sold on it. Maybe it's a decent movie, maybe it isn't, but they didn't really wow me with the marketing for it.
I think the title was long as F.
Oh yeah, I was talking about that yesterday too. I said the title didn't help the film. And then now I'm hearing also that this thing is supposed to be dropping on Amazon already next week.
Right. It was sort of a
true?
limited it's a limited run.
Yeah, well, in that case, it's kind of like the Argyle movie where it didn't really matter. And the thing with Argyle that's funny about Argyle is, yeah, the movie may have been crap, but that's the kind of movie that women used to flock to, right?
No,
like
I
that was.
disagree. I think it was fun. Like if you get what the premise is, it's really fun. Matthew Vaughn makes very fun movies. Like
I didn't watch it, but I got like a very kind of like Romancing the Stone kind of vibe from the trailers.
Yeah, it's Romancing the Stone meets the Kingsman.
Yeah, I could see that considering
But
Vaughn
the
did
point I was
direct.
making yesterday
Yeah.
was like Henry's had 3 movies now where he starred in a Bond-like role. In fact, this last one here, this is literally the creation of Bond, right? Like this is the
Mhm,
story that led us to Bond.
mhm.
And this still didn't even generate enough buzz to get people in the seats. Now it could be the title, it could be the lack of advertising on I believe Amazon's part or whoever is owning this thing.
I'm gonna go
Um
with lack of advertising time, and I'm gonna say it's because it's one of those things where I've not heard anyone talk about. Like it feels like it's because you want to know if there's an actual good conversation when normies are bringing it up. I know obviously we say a lot about them being tourists or not, but when you know that the normies are talking about it, it at least gives you a good idea that okay, that means people know about this. So whether we want value their opinions as a whole or subject, but in terms of the reach of the audience, it is good to know that. And these last few movies, I've brought up to people and people who say they like it and go, oh, I didn't know that, and it sucks. It's unfortunate, but
well,
I feel like there's a lot of people who are not even aware that these movies came out. Like
and I
we
really
know
want to
because we follow this stuff, but
no, and I'm sorry. I just really want to punt this over to script here because he didn't really get to chime in yesterday on the show because he wasn't there.
nope.
So, and he and I have had this conversation many, many, many a time. And just to kind of sum up what I said yesterday is like clearly he can work on television, right? Because
Yeah.
The Witcher did well for him. Maybe this Warhammer thing is perfect for him. He does have one more shot with Highlander to show maybe he can open a movie. But I argued that yesterday he has had more than enough opportunities now to prove to us, and this is the conversation you and I kept having script is has he done enough yet as far as non-IP type driven stuff like Superman and whatnot for us to gauge if he's a movie star or not? And I think we've kind of gotten our answer now. So what do you think about all this now that we've had a chance to talk to you about it?
Yeah, he's. I'm sorry to say it. While he may have a very loud and fervent fan base on social media, he is not a box office draw.
Mhm,
I'll put to you this way. So, Ministry is a Lionsgate film. Lionsgate did a okay job at best promoting it. I would say they for what Lionsgate does. But I will say this: he was also in a movie in 2018 called Night Hunter with Ben Kingsley. Nobody saw it. He was the lead in
Yeah.
that. Nobody saw it. Why? Because nobody actually cares about Henry Cavill. He may be a charming guy to fans. He may be charming on social media. He definitely has lots of women that adore
Well, if I
him.
may, people also forgot that he was already acting way back with the Count of Monte Cristo, which was what late '90s, early 2000s, something like that. So he's
In
been around for a
2002,
while.
he's
He was
been
on the
acting
Tudors.
22 years
He was
essentially.
on the Tudors.
Yeah, and the Tudors and all that stuff. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, script.
So he's been doing. He was the hunter in Red Riding Hood, back in 06. He was Humphrey in Stardust with Robert De Niro. He was in Immortals. He here's the thing that you have to understand when it comes to actors. 99% of the time, they don't get to pick what roles they get. They take the work that's available to them.
Right.
Only rarely do you have big named actors that can actually choose what they want to do. And Henry is not that. That's why he's in a lot of stuff. That's why he's just doing whatever he can that will pay the bills, that will allow him to keep acting and maintain a little bit of consistent publicity in the sphere of Hollywood. Um, that's just what he is. But he is clearly not a box office draw. And I don't think he's going to be, because whatever factor it's needed for him, for the current generation that people go to movies require, he doesn't have it. Unfortunately, people like Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya have it. And that's a whole nother story. They have way bigger followings on social media than Henry Cavill does.
mhm.
And the other part too is Henry Cavill, the roles that he has taken have never been ones that allowed him to stand out. That I mean, aside from what I hear from
Outside of
Mystery of Gentleman.
Superman,
No,
basically.
no,
Yeah.
Superman, he didn't even stand out in that. I mean, for crying out loud, as
Well,
people are
that's
talking
like
about
your
Michael
ultimate
Shannon, that's
shot
terrible.
at the
Yeah.
center ring, though, and that still didn't work out for him. Was my
But if you
point.
take
Yeah.
a look, like the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is the first role he's had where it's actually really, really juicy that isn't opposite Tom Cruise. And then
Right.
everything else he's done has been, he did Enola Holmes, that was straight to Netflix. He did the sequel, that was also straight to Netflix. Zack Snyder's Justice League, that was on streaming. So he's got no box office track record. Witcher, that's also on Netflix, no money there. Black Adam, that bombed.
Mhm.
Argyle, I mean, yeah, Matthew Vaughn made money off it by selling it for twice what it's worth to Apple, but they didn't do much to advertise it. It didn't perform that well. Other than that, he had Batman v Superman: Dawn from Justice, Man from U.N.C.L.E., fairly well received, but did not perform well, did not start the franchise it was intended to. He was in The Cold Light of Day. Nobody saw that, and he was the lead in that one. He was Immortals. Nobody saw that either. Like, he's just not.
Yeah, that was forgettable.
Just doesn't have anything. Unfortunately, just I'm probably the one on the panel who's actually seen most of his movies, and I'm probably one of the few people who actually know who Henry Cavill is that like and appreciate him, that have seen his films. I think he has a ton of fans that just like him for Superman and like him for the fact that he's a geek that is into like Warhammer and Witcher and stuff. And that's not sustainable for an actor's career. And
No.
until he finds something that allows him to, first of all, he needs a high profile film that people want to see that actually shows his acting range and skills, which he does have because he's trained on the British style of acting. He's a very convincing actor. I think he's good. The thing is that he's just either through the fact that he takes what he can get, because there's not a lot of offers for men of his type in Hollywood, or at least for the last 10 years there haven't been. He takes what he can get to keep paying the bills and keep acting. And maybe his Warhammer thing will be a breakout. One can hope. Maybe Highlander will be, but it's going to be really hard because, as we stated, everything that has been relatively not so much successful, but it's at least tracked significantly in the box office has been an established IP of a character that's had decades behind it to actually garner a core base of audience to show up. This one here, this Ministry, nobody really knew it. And only people that would have known it would have been 40 years ago, because they would have heard the stories of, oh, these are some of the mercenaries that were used that inspired Ian Fleming to like do his James Bond, which also led to him creating the CIA over at Camp X in Canada for the United States and the whole British spy agency and everything of that nature. People would have gotten that during the peak, during the Cold War era in the 80s when Bond was still regularly done. And you can market it as like, the semi-true story of Bond. But it's also Guy Ritchie. And Guy Ritchie's got a style to him, but he's never had a really huge successfully track record. And one of the things I learned about this film is that he literally threw out the script a couple of days before shooting and kind of just improvised what he wanted to do. So now you've got something based off of a real story that is now mostly fabricated. So you lose the inspirational and aspirational aspects of what these crazy people did in order to, help in the war effort. But you're able to lean into on the fun side of things, which is that they're killing the enemies that everybody hates in the world. So, I mean, that allows you to have a very entertaining time. And so if you acknowledge it as like a fantasy, like an Inglourious Bastards, it could work. But again, something like this would have been a slam dunk 25 years ago. But today, with what's going on with Guy Ritchie behind it, with the fact that people going to movies is more expensive than expected because of all the extra factors that come in. It's not just the ticket prices, it's also the gas to get to the theater, it's commute times, it's the fact that sometimes the communal aspect of the movie theater is not as tolerable as it used to be. You have a lot of obnoxious people, you have people holding up their phones in the middle of the film, as opposed to just the old days where it was talking and confection of popcorn and candy being thrown around. Now you've got lights and distractions and things and kids crying and people yelling at each other and whatnot. And the movie experience is no longer a communal event where people are actually fully dedicated to what's on the screen. They're easily distracted by everything else because they're not really there to see the movie. They're just there to say that they went out. And that also hurts the industry too.
And I think what it boils down to at the end of the day is that Henry Cavill's a decent actor. He's had 20 years to give it, a go. He reached a certain level, and I don't think he's going to go much beyond that. Now, there's a caveat to that. Next year, Highlander and things could send him over that. And there could be an argument to be made that Hollywood doesn't promote him as much because he's not seen as somebody who's into the same things as everybody else is, and he's been branded as difficult and all these other things, which we know is really just code for he doesn't like to compromise the
integrity of what he's doing.
The integrity of what he's doing, yeah.
On Man of Steel, because we found out years later he was not happy with the portrayal of Superman he was asked to do.
Yeah.
Although he did crap on the Christopher Reeve suit that he had to wear for the audition, which was actually not a smart move on his part.
No, that was not.
But,
now, script. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
I was going to ask you. It seems like you have been one of the few that has gone out of your way to show up for all these things that Cavill is in, whether it's starring or supporting, when you watch these things, has he been good in all these things that you listed? Because you mentioned all the projects that he's been in that people have not been turning up for. Has he been good in these things? Like to at least say, okay, at least I know like he has a talent. It's just bad timing. Or do you feel like he's working with bad material? Or do you feel like he's been even okay in it? What are your thoughts on his performance on these things that people are not showing up for?
As weird as it might be to say this, I think he'd probably be a more successful character actor than a leading man. That's how good he
Really?
is.
I,
Yeah.
Well,
I
he kind of
haven't-
is, and you kind of said that earlier about the fact that he's the best. His best role so far has been in the villain role of Mission Impossible. But Nick, you're about to, or Price, you're
Right.
about to say something.
I was going to say that if I were him, I'd try to do something else. I'd start trying to make smaller movies. I'd do a movie where he's some kind of assassin or some guy that's an action guy that kicks everybody's ass. Maybe something very simple that doesn't cost a lot of money to produce. You see him on a poster holding like a big gun, and you write something that everybody understands that you're going to go, and it's a kind of guy movie that there's a lot of action
Well,
and people
he did
kicking
that.
ass.
That's
called
kind of
Night
what this is.
I don't. This once it's
this?
guy, it's a period piece. I don't know. They're
Well, here's the thing, in Price, we could not argue, but we could
Well,
we could discuss how they probably could have sold this movie better than they did. Because here's the thing that I was getting at is you have the movie now where it basically is the inspiration for Bond. And what have people been talking about for the last few years? Henry Cavill should be Bond. Henry Cavill should be Bond. Henry Cavill should be Bond. Now we've literally got him in the role, one of the roles that inspired that character, and nobody went to see it.
it's a period piece. I personally, I don't need a period piece. Like, first of all, I'm more open to seeing that movie. I was going to see the Gentlemanly Warfare thing. I just didn't get a chance, and I may still see it. But what I was going to say was, just for your average Joe, he should go and try to do smaller movies. Once it's a movie that's not very expensive to make, and it's just some kind of action thing, and you know that even if there's this kind of minor turnout, it's going to churn a profit. He should start going there and quietly building a track record like that. Kind of like a Jason Statham, you know what I mean? Do
He's
something.
kind of set up for that price, and that's what I was saying. With if this actual thing with Warhammer works out, either way, he's got Highlander on the like. That is one of the best things he could have probably have done. Like, if anything that he has coming up that is going to finally, for once and for all, show if he can. You got like the perfect synergy of a well-known actor in the proper kind of role in an IP that has never really been able to be farmed the way it should outside of the series, right? So I think it's a perfect storm of things to come together. If Lionsgate promotes it correctly, it could be the movie that puts him out there. And that's why I say there is that little asterisk there that he still has a chance, but I think that window's closing fast. And the quality of movies he's been in, I don't think is really the problem, because that's what I was getting at too with Richson is who gives a shit if Richson's in the movie if he rises above and beyond it, right? Because here's a perfect example. Like, I can't stand for the life of me Amy Schumer. I've never seen a fucking movie with her in it. Never plan on watching one until now. Why? Because she's in that fucking movie with Seinfeld.
Oh, the Pop-Tart one.
The Pop-Tart movie. And because I saw the trailer for that, and I'm like, nobody could make this movie but Seinfeld. And that's why he's making it, and I want to see it because of that. Right? Like,
right.
Not only that,
so
like,
you have those certain people that just rise above, even if the movie is shit, right? Like, I still want to see it just because.
Make you want to go there. Now, to
because Seinfeld is half of the reason, but yeah.
But to Price's point, Henry did exactly what you suggested. It was called Night Hunter with Ben Kingsley. It was a small movie with him and a gun on a poster. Nobody showed up for it.
I see.
So it's not going to work for him.
I've never even heard of it, though. I never heard of that movie. I would have gone to see it. I never heard of it.
Yeah. But that's the other part, too. I don't think Henry Cavill fans actually pay attention to what Henry Cavill is really doing.
Yeah.
I think
it doesn't help that most of them are just
we're
looking
guilty
for
of that
scenes,
as well. Yeah. That's why I feel kind of guilty saying it. But yeah, because I would like to see some of these things. But no, I didn't even know that one come out with him and Kingsley.
Well,
that sounds right up my alley.
And look at what I've been saying all along about, like, Timothée Chalamet, for instance. I used to pick on him, but now I won't pick on him no more. Why? because between Dune and Wonka, he's proved that this kid is the up and coming movie star that is created by the fans, not the theater, not
the industry.
the studios. Yeah, the studios basically is what I meant to say.
Which
Because
is sad. That's sad.
it's
to be so
sad, but
lame.
I compare him to Johnny Depp, and I know some people laugh at that, but it's like, no, seriously, look at him. He is exactly Johnny Depp at that same exact age.
I can see your point on that, Tom. Actually,
And not only
I
that, he's
actually
already
see where you're
played
coming from
Edward
that.
Scissorhands Jr. in the freaking commercials. I forgot all about that when I was making that point.
Mhm.
So, like, he's got that thing about him that people are starting to gravitate towards. But Johnny, it took him, and there's a good point, it took him a lot of years, right? People forget the 21 Jump Street years, and Edward Scissorhands was way before he was a movie star. If it wasn't a Tim Burton movie, Johnny Depp couldn't get a hit to save his life. He did Nick of Time and all these other movies where he tried to play an action star. It wasn't until Pirates of the Caribbean when Johnny Depp became Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Right before that, it was Gilbert Grape and all these smaller movies, Benny and June. Nobody went and saw.
John Waters films that he'd
John Waters, Crybaby, and shit like that. Yeah,
He was great in Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. That's the movie
that was probably his biggest success prior to Pirates of the Caribbean, believe it or not. And that wasn't even a hit in theaters; it was just a hit on video after the fact.
Yep,
I
Bill Murray
thought
did
he
that
was great
character
in that.
20 years prior, and it
with
performed the same
Buffalo
way.
Rome.
Yeah, Where the Buffalo's Rome.
Which is actually a sequel to Fear and Loathing, but yeah, it's kind of weird how that
Sleepy
works out.
Hollow. Sleepy
I got
Hollow.
it. Henry Cavill is the Margot Robbie of Hollywood.
You know, that's a
Ooh.
good example, Mike.
I
They
was
keep getting
actually
these
thinking about
roles.
that.
I'm sitting here
And it's-
listening to you guys for like 15, 20 minutes. I'm sitting here listening, and it just dawns on me. I think he's the male Margot Robbie.
That's a good comparison. It is, because
That's
she
a
just
really
can't
good
seem
No
to catch
one
a
went to
break.
go see Barbie because of Margot Robbie. They went because of the Barbie concept.
Yeah,
You
and
could
they
be
loved
right
it
on
because of Ken. And that's the other part too. They didn't
And
like it.
then,
because of Margot.
that's the funny part. They end up coming out
People
talking
liked
about
Ken.
Ken.
Yeah. So no, I think that's a very fair.
Yay! I said something important on the stream.
Well, here's the other part too. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to get certain YouTubers and other social media people claim that they didn't go see this movie because of Alan Ritchson. But the weird thing is that before this movie came out, Alan Ritchson did one for Angel Studios that was actually with Hilary Swank, and it's actually quite good. And it's based off a true story about a single dad who needs to help his daughter, who's suffering from a heart condition, get surgery, and the whole town rallies to get behind to help him to dig out a snowstorm so that he can get to the airport to help save his kid. It's a very heartwarming, fun film. And now you're going to have, like, let's listen, he's not helping his case at all. He's also bipolar, which means that, as I said on Toxic Femme in the comment yesterday, a couple months, he might just backtrack and do everything and do apology tour. But one of the things that he's been kind of consistent with is he hates child abuse, and he hates anyone that tries to hide it or defend it. And he's very religious, but he doesn't like institutions of it, which I know many Christians that just, they don't go to church, but they're very religious. They're very charitable. They pray, they read the Bible, they do all that type of stuff. They just don't go to the church because they can't trust the church. That's their issues. I don't think Alan Ritchson is in a position right now where he's got the right people around him to keep him on the rise that he's having. And I think he's being taken advantage of that for the sake of other people. But at the same time, he's also, he's not helping his own case. He's going to have those up and down moments that Carrie Fisher had in the late 80s and early 90s, where she was all over the place. Even the stuff that Margot Kidder had, she was freaking out all the time. That's going to be Alan for the foreseeable future if he doesn't get, proper support. And he's going to most likely kill his career if he keeps it up at this rate. Not for the sake of people not wanting to cast him, because they do want to cast him. It's for the fact that he is going to, as he gets better known and he starts getting more public with his outrages, people are just going to be very averse to him.
Well, we went through the week before on Toxic Femme. He comes off as very bipolar. Like, I mean, he says he is.
Yeah, he was
diagnosed. Not only that, there's some other people who have said there's some things that sound like he has some major roid rage too. But that being said, as far as Cavill goes, I mean, I think, Nick, you made the best point of the night with, it's kind of the audience's fault for not supporting him. I mean, if they really like him so much, then they need to go out and support him a little bit more. And I guess that's where Highlander and whatever he's got in between there now is our chance to. But let's see what the audience is saying about it. We got Duck Vader, who says Cavill isn't a movie star. He's a famous actor. He's likable, but he isn't selling movies on his name value. Yeah, I mean, he's kind of like Walton Goggins. I mean, he's finally getting some notice, but Walton Goggins has been around for over 20 years. right?
Mhm.
One of his first movies was Major
Mhm.
League 3.
With Scott Bakula.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
Well,
people forget he's been
Walter
around for a
Jones,
long time.
That's a
Karate Kid,
comeback.
the next
And that
Karate
one
Kid
too, next Karate Kid as
with
well.
Hilary
Yep.
Swank. That wasn't that his first role.
That might have been his first one, yeah.
I mean, but he's a character actor and always has been a character actor, and he's been a great character actor. He was on The
Exactly.
Shield. He was Justified. He was like in a lot. He's just a really good character actor.
Yeah. No, and Cavill can be in that role. Like, there's nothing
What's a
wrong with
Walter
that.
Coggins?
What's a Walton Goggins?
Yeah.
Walton Goggins is a character actor. He was if you've seen
This is Walton
the-
Goggins.
I fucking knew it! Oh!
Still don't know who he is.
Oh, he's more
he
recent.
was the assassin in Fat Man, the Mel Gibson Santa
Yeah.
Claus film, he was fantastic in that.
Just look him up, you'll recognize him.
Alright.
And we got Green Raptor here with $2 says you're missing subject matter expert Anna. That's Sour's girl. Well, honestly, that might be part of the problem, and I'm not picking on Anna. I'm just saying part of the problem with I think people perceiving Henry as a bigger star than he really is how popular he is among women. But are these women going out to see his movies?
Yeah, women
Right?
showed up to Jason Momoa too, which is like, okay, so what do women see in Momoa that they didn't see in Cavill? Because obviously Cavill can act a lot better than Momoa. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Momoa, but when you see Jason Momoa, he's one of those actors where he plays well Jason Momoa. And I'm not that's not a diss, just some actors are just that way. And Henry Cavill shows you he can do more things than one, and yet they're not turning up. I feel like if women were to turn up for a guy, it would be Henry Cavill. But I mean, I'm wrong because he's got a string of flops, and I hate saying that because I don't want to sound like I'm dissing on Henry, but it's not happening.
Well, and Barton Bella says, I hate to say it, Henry needs a dark and sexy role. I think that's what Highlander will do for him. It's a more edgy role, especially if they dive more into the romantic side of Highlander. The women will dig that. I mean, that has pretty much everything that you could ask for. So if that doesn't work, then that just tells you that this guy just doesn't have the royal jelly, as Paul Chatto likes to call it.
I don't know. I was gonna say, like, I know what you're saying about Timothy Chalamet and stuff, but I don't know. I just think in general we don't give a shit about movie stars anymore because the mystique and the aura has been lost mostly at their own hand.
And I mean, that's kind of the one thing we've danced over the entire time, but I don't think that's true to a point, and that's where I made the point with Timothy Chalamet and people like that, and especially Jenna Ortega is a real good example of that.
Yeah, maybe you're right.
Who are becoming movie stars despite the system.
Maybe we just missed out on getting any because so much woke shit happened the last 10 years.
And a lot of people think that Jenna is
right.
Yeah, and Jenna, and people think Jenna just got big because of Wednesday, but no, that's not true. She had a huge following before that. In fact, I've made the argument she is the only reason people went to see that last Scream movie, because they lost a good majority of the original fans with that one before it. So,
Scream
and I
4?
know it was Scream 6, the last one. And I know a lot of people who did go see it went mainly just for her. They didn't give a shit otherwise. They weren't fans of the Scream series. They just went to see it because Jenna Ortega was in it. So I know she's got a following. But yeah, as far as the woke business goes, go ahead and script on that, because that does matter too.
Well, we've been living literally in a creative gap in entertainment in Hollywood. Many of the spec scripts that would go out that would normally get moderate funding, and we're talking mid to low budget stuff, would be either glossed over because they don't fit the DEI requirements, or they just weren't, or the studios were more interested in leaning into the existing IP stuff far more than they ever have before. Because again, Hollywood is built on adapting books and plays into film, and then original scripts were peppered in throughout, and then there's slowly a balance that came to fruition as we got deeper into the 60s, 70s, and then 80s. But then we've kind of reverted back. We've stopped experimenting with spec scripts, with original ideas, or at least different derivatives of a gimmick that people are aware of. The most recent one that actually worked was John Wick, and that's just a guy with a gun story. Like that's the gimmick.
Basically, yeah.
And that's only done as a result of Keanu Reeves and a whole bunch of stunt guys literally pooling their own money together to make that movie and then self-distribute. And that worked, that created its own little franchise. but we haven't had anything new like that. It's not for lack of trying. It's the fact that we've had a number of Hollywood studio heads that have been fed false data, went into a completely different direction, propped up people that had potential but were not ready for what the responsibilities required for what they had. They've now forgotten how to make the great movies that could be made. The people that knew how to make them have either passed away or retired and don't want anything to do with the industry anymore. So we have this massive gap with lacking experience. We have a lot of presumptions from people straight out of university that have no clue what they're doing. They're great on business, but they have no idea of like how to sell something. You have marketers that basically tell you, I don't know how to do my job. And then they still are able to collect a paycheck as a result of that.
Not
and
only
then-
that, it feels like there's only 3 people who are actually doing all the marketing in Hollywood.
Yeah, it's so homogenous. Even though there's tons of different marketing departments, they're all homogenized with the same exact method. There's no diversity of ideas across those departments. You go to Warner Brothers marketing agencies, they're all going to give you the exact same thing you'll get from Disney, and the same thing over at Universal.
Yeah.
There's no.
That's why all the trailers look and sound the same. That's why all the posters look the same.
And where's
Exactly.
the spectacle? Where are the fun events that actually go to promote the film? You know, the gimmicks and things that are used to pull people in. The only one that's doing that is Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, and actually for Deadpool 3, I'd say
really
he's
good marketing
failing.
campaign. You think he's
And actually,
failing? Okay.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. He has
Yeah,
not
let's
done
do that.
one original trailer for this movie outside of before the movie was even being shot. I am disappointed because Deadpool 2 was one of those rare movies in history where the campaign for the movie was better than the movie because of
Yeah.
all the stuff he was doing outside of it. He was doing the Hitchcock thing. Like, I loved him doing that. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, is where he's like not actually showing you the movie. It's just a little like side piece thing that he's doing on his own. And that's what Hitchcock used to do. He'd take you through the set of the movie. Like, go watch the Psycho trailer. It's like 6 minutes long and it doesn't show you one shot of the entire film.
Yeah.
But
It's
maybe
just
he's part of
Hitchcock
the Disney
going through the
system.
house and talking about the movie. And that's what basically Reynolds did for the first 2 movies. But this one, we're just dropping trailers now all of a sudden.
Because he's part of the Disney system now. I don't think that they're just letting him do whatever he wants, I guess.
You could be right, Price. I don't know.
Oh,
They
I
like it when they
guarantee
have
you.
their trailers.
Yeah, I guarantee you, they're like the cross promotion stuff you did with the first 2 Deadpools. We don't think that's going to be very in line with Disney. But what we'll let you do is we'll let you make fun of us in the movie, but only through the trailer, because we want to get people to actually see the movie. And you know what? That's a mistake.
That's a
because-
bait and switch and a half. If that ends
Because
up being
Ryan
the
Reynolds-
case,
Do you
Ryan
think
Reynolds
those
did some
jokes
vodka
about Marvel
commercials
are
that
actually going to be in the
absolutely
movie itself?
Maybe.
Or are they going to be removed?
I think they're going to go full hard because they need to.
yeah, they do need to.
I learned new
Will
words.
they?
I learned new words and phrases from that trailer about how to refer to cocaine that I didn't know.
Mhm.
I sadly knew most of those.
Oh.
And I don't even do cocaine.
I'm
But that
learning
is
a lot.
Well, we're gonna get to I'm gonna ask you guys what you thought about the new Deadpool trailer in just a few minutes here. Goddess of Whim sends in $10 and says, I'd say he's more of a star, but he's not a draw. Women like to look at him, and that's it. Studios are more interested in IP than people. It's all about merchandising. You know, this is a good point too, because it's not like the studios are going out of their way to help build movie stars anymore either.
They're not
Like,
even
yeah,
going out of the
that
way to
doesn't-
merchandise a film anymore. Like,
No.
I'm not signing a bunch of extra merchandise around any movies that have come out, except for maybe Godzilla, and that's an easy one because kids love dinosaur toys.
And
as you say, Tom.
Ghostbusters, but yeah.
And Ministry of Ungentlely Warfare would have had action figures with it 30 years ago, because James
Oh,
Bond
yeah.
had action figures with them 40 years
Yeah.
ago. You had car toys, you had all sorts of stuff, the cross promotion and things of that nature. I think what's ended up happening is that big tech has robbed us of our ability to play for our kids. They're more interested
Mhm.
in the screen and the immediate interaction, the speak and spell of the 21st century, as opposed to, hey, let's play with an action figure or a toy car and get lost in our imagination, exploring the very thing that inspired us to get this toy or demand our parents buy us this toy. We don't have that relationship anymore.
Well, not
And
just that, but even the cross promotion, like, even if it wasn't necessarily something that would get a toy, you would have the McDonald's meal, or you would have the
or
cups
the
or something like
Pizza
that.
Hut or the KFC.
Somebody
cross-
that was a little bit more adult oriented, but yeah, it was still something to
Collected
promote the
glasses.
film. Yeah.
Well, I
Well-
remember when Casino Royale came out, they had the watches, the
There you go. Yeah.
it was a high-end watch. It wasn't Rolex. It was another company.
Omega.
And
I owned one, and
Omega. Yeah.
it was my most prized possession until one of my ex-girlfriends stole it from me one night in the middle of the night. Long story. Well, that's what happened. So
Here's
yeah.
I don't think she was an ex-girlfriend as much as she was a whore.
You know, Tom,
Sound like
I come on this
70s.
show and I don't appreciate my life choices being
Well,
judged.
she did stole your jewelry, man. I mean,
Well, she also took the cufflinks and the Omega watch, and it was
That's a whore.
James Bond limited special edition. That's exactly what Script was talking about. It was a special Omega. Jay, I'm
That's a
sorry I did that. I'm sorry, Jay. I know I should be better. I know I make bad.
Jay
life.
shows up and you start talking about that stuff, he's just gonna leave. See? No. Anyway, no, Goddess of Women, that is a good point. They don't do cross promotion like they used to. I mean, the late 80s going into the 90s. I mean, I remember working at Taco Bell between all the Godzilla / Star Wars stuff.
I remember
And
the
I
Starship
remember-
Trooper stuff, the RoboCop
I remember it
stuff.
coming down though, but this is probably why they don't have it so much anymore. Because after they spent all that money on the Star Wars deal, they said they would never do that again because of how much they figured they lost on that deal. It was not a very good deal for them. And we got stuck with so much Star Wars shit. Like
Yeah,
I
you
actually
got-
for a
you
while
got
had a
lot
box of
traffic,
those
though.
posters.
They did report huge numbers in additional traffic, but the sales did not equate the actual labor required to handle it. That's the problem.
But the sad part was I think the Godzilla campaign was a little bit more successful, but I think they overdid the Star Wars campaign. Like
Yeah.
we had so much XS stuff.
Oh,
Like I said, I
dude,
went home
remember
with
the
a whole
Phantom
box of
Menace?
posters and shit. That's
Dude,
what I'm
the
talking
Phantom
about. Yeah.
Menace had all the Coke and Dr. Pepper cans. You had KFC, Taco Bell, and Pizza Hut
They were
doing
pogs.
their promo.
That's what I mean.
I remember, like, I remember got my first action figure from the internet during when the Phantom Menace came out. That was Yoda on his throne, where they came with the little talking chips for him to put on the thing to talk. That campaign for merchandise was insane. I still have a lot of that stuff to this day, which I'm still happy to have. But yeah, that was not just a movie. Granted, I know the movie is not good, but at the time, that was like an event. I remember people were in sleeping bags, like, camping out for that movie. Like, I'd
over
say
a
probably
year.
the closest thing you'd have to an event movie. I mean, regardless of how people feel about it, I'd say the closest, even then, that might even be somewhat debatable, is probably when Endgame came out, because there was a massive audience for it and people were going nuts for it, and, flocking in droves for it and planning everything around seeing it, that opening night. I'd say probably that was the last bigger one, if you want to call it that. But
I think it was
we've
already
had
dying
nothing.
before then, but I think you can go from Phantom Menace to The Force Awakens is where we kind of went from.
I'd say after that would probably be The Force Awakens, because it was an event leading up to, because it was one of those things, once again, that everyone was talking about. And then, of course, then people were like, even though the people who were kind of thought it was okay, were like, I'll give it another shot. And then, well, we all know what happened with The Last Jedi.
Well, the reason I say that is because the Phantom Menace really was one of the last times they could get away with lying to us as a audience up until recent years again, when they've been doing it on purpose even more so. So like it seemed like for a while there things had gotten a little level playing field. Like they almost had to deliver what they were promising for a while there. Because after Godzilla and Phantom Menace, the audience is like, no, we're not going to get fooled again. Because even though Attack of the Clones did well at the box office, it didn't do nearly as well as the first film, because fans weren't going to get burnt again right away like they did the last time. There was like hardly any merchandising for Attack of the Clones either. Now, Rise of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith was a different story, but that's just because they could put Darth Vader all over everything. So that was the big difference there. But yeah, because I even remember when I had my video store, I still had a bunch of Star Wars stuff from Phantom Menace, and I couldn't get rid of most of it. If it had Jar Jar on it, it was like poison. But anyway, I know people don't remember those times, but yeah. Well, man, forces, I guess you guys got the memo. It's on the Supreme Court's 9-0 ruling that you have to show some harm of workplace bias against employees. Yeah, we talked a little bit about this yesterday.
I feel harmed. What do I get for free?
So what this is referring to is the Supreme Court shot down this whole deal about affirmative action and DEI in the workplace, basically saying what we all have been saying for a long time, and that is that it's illegal.
Yeah.
Wait, so you saying I'm not going to get any free shit or what?
No, your free ride's over, Mike.
Damn it. Damn it.
Nah.
So
You've worked so hard for your white privilege, you've earned it.
Oh, thank you.
You know, that's actually going to be quite useful because there's already been talks this last week from writers and some smaller directors that have basically said, screw it, we don't care about the Oscars anymore. Because of the DEI mandates that are going in for being selected or put into consideration. There's
Well, and I made a prediction script. Remember that it ain't gonna last long anyway, because there's gonna be
it's
the
gonna be
first
1 year,
year.
and then they're gonna they change it back.
Yeah, either it's gonna be 1 year or the first time a movie that should be nominated for something doesn't get nominated. Something they're gonna freak the fuck out, and it's gonna go away. So, yeah. Well, I mean, it is kind of unconstitutional in a lot of ways. And that's the thing, a lot of us, not to get too political here, but a lot of us have been saying on these panel shows for years now, is that there already were laws in place to level the playing field and make sure people couldn't be discriminated against in the workplace and things of that sort. So adding more to it or trying to say that people aren't getting equal treatment is pretty much bullshit.
Yeah, it's actually the regressive maneuver, because the progressive one was you cannot discriminate based on race or gender. That was it. Just you can't discriminate. That's it. And then the regressives are like, well, no, now you need X amount of people at your company. Well, what about whether they're qualified? No, it doesn't matter. X amount. Well, that's going backwards, because now it's going to negatively affect them, and it's going to negatively affect the business. It's going to negatively affect everybody. That's not
domino effect. Yep,
that's
it's a domino effect. Yeah, it is, and that regresses, turns a domino effect because it starts spreading into other companies. Our companies catch on, and then it starts at the small rinky-dinky jobs, I guess you could say, are for people to learn to develop social skills. But then it starts translating to the more serious jobs, whether it's
we're
pilot,
already seeing that, right?
surgeon. Yeah, and can you imagine someone just saying, I identify as a surgeon? Well, are you qualified? Well, no, but if I say so I'm going to perform this heart surgery on you. Ooh.
And I made this point because there was this influx of like Indian doctors in the US, especially in my area, for a while. And that was because we found out what they were doing is they were actually paying for their schooling to come over here, and then they'd expect them to come back, but they wouldn't. Right. They were just staying here. So back then, I didn't think nothing of it. I get an Indian doctor, whatever. Nowadays, I get a doctor that's not white, let's say, or whatever. And I got to sit there and go, okay, are they actually here because they're good? Or are they actually here because DEI? Right? Because, see, that's the thing. We were the canary in the coal mine already, trying to fucking warn people, because movies, television, video games, those kind of things, guess what? They aren't going to make or break or change lives all that much outside of the people working on them. Right? Mm-hmm. But what is going to make or break change lives are doctors, pilots, drivers, like important things in life, nurses, police officers, I mean,
the people that Hollywood entertains so that they can take a break. Yeah.
Well, the point being is, like, I'm not surprised when I hear that planes are falling out of the fucking sky. It's like, we warned y'all this was going to happen. If you put somebody in the place of a job of somebody who was qualified, who's no longer qualified, and only there because of their race or gender or what's between their legs or who they want to fuck or suck, then guess what's going to happen? Planes are going to fall out the fucking sky. That's what's going to happen. Okay? Because nobody knows how to do their goddamn job correctly. We've been seeing this for years, to where, like, even NASA is so far away from getting people into space for years because they couldn't even. Let's not even get into that shit, because Andre is better at telling you that story.
You now throw a stigma on the people that are qualified that do fit those demographics, because now nobody's going to trust them.
Oh my God! I was just on a plane ride back from Boston to Boston with my kid, and I had to catch myself from being. I felt awful. I literally looked in the cockpit, and Max was talking to the pilots, because he does that when we get off the planes, and I looked in there and I saw two white people, and I breathed a sigh of relief. I'm like, oh, I'm so racist. But that's what went through my head, script.
But you know what the other thing is? That also might be part of another underlying agenda. Push certain ideologies so far so that when the pendulum swings back to the other side, it allows people to justifiably harass those that are actually qualified and are based on merit. And then now you've basically got we're back to where we were. We're going into a regression in another angle now. So you've got this really dicey thing here where it's up to everybody who is not crazy to make sure that pendulum doesn't swing so far to the right to the point where you end up being the very thing that the left would be accusing you of doing when it didn't exist at that time. It's basically like being prophetic. So you've got to be able to like hold it back and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Just because they're this person, are they actually good at their job, or what was, based on DEI? Ideally, we want to be in the situation which is no, it's actually because they're good at their job. Then I don't care about everything else. Like that's what you need to get to. But it's not going to happen if the further that pendulum gets out to the left, and then it's going to come swinging back really hard. And if you just step away and don't block it, it's going to go all the way to the other end. And then basically everything that was being touted about now, 10 years from now, is going to be like, well, that was kind of true then. And now you're like, well, no, that wasn't the reality. You're obfuscating the biggest problem here, which is the fact that it's been manipulation back and forth to exploit everybody on either side of things. It's going to be horrible if that ends up happening and being the case.
Let me bring it back down to entertainment side of things. This world is basically becoming where if Dr. Nick Riviera, like all the rules we had set in place before, kept him out of hospitals.
Yes.
Now he'd be the lead fucking surgeon.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
I fell into the void. Don't lie to me. You can say that for the police.
Right?
Yes.
Like that's what we've become. Like all the rules that used to go, okay, no, like you can't be in here because you're fucking gonna kill somebody.
So, Tom, by that logic, does that mean Simpsons predicted the future yet again?
Oh, if they do an episode this year where Dr. Nick is the lead surgeon, the only thing that's keeping that hospital safe is they've got Dr. Hibbert there, but he's been the doctor forever, and he was a play on Dr. Huxtable to begin with. So there you go.
It was a good one. He had a medical 2x4 to hit Homer over the head with. Well, here's the thing with The Simpsons. And so the writers of the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons were actually really well educated, well versed in fiction and history. Everything that they did as a joke, which feels like a prediction, is based on human nature. It's like, what is the most absurd thing that feels like it would never happen in a million years? We're going to do that in The Simpsons. But at the same time, it's like we also have to sell it to feel like it's a little authentic and convincing for this universe. And guess what? Humanity has always been crazy. That is what has allowed us to prosper as much as we have.
Right.
So even though it seems like a prediction, it's really just, it's more or less like saying this is a guide. Like, we're going to tell you you're going to do this. We don't know when, but it's going to happen. And we're just pointing it out that at this point in time, we know that this is going to happen at some point because of the experience of our species. And they're not wrong. It feels like a prediction. It feels like Nostradamus, but it's really just basic. Like, if you can imagine how crazy it will be, someone on the planet will make it happen. I mean, the whole thing, 32. You can't make this stuff up. Yes, you can, because it happens. The reason is like you shouldn't, by normal accounts, you shouldn't normally be able to believe this is happening. But unfortunately, one of the best parts about humanity is we can make the unfathomable real.
Yeah. Let's get back into these super chats because we got some other topics to get to here. Got us a win 2003 sends in another 5. Thank you again for the support. We appreciate that. The only name that will draw me to a theater, no questions asked, is Edgar Wright. Huh? Well, and that's another thing. Guy Ritchie wasn't even enough to muster up interest in this movie.
But Guy Ritchie, I mean, it's Guy Ritchie, man. Like, he did a movie with Madonna that nobody watched.
Well, what I find was stupid is this movie was only released in the US. It was not released in the UK at all.
Which is retarded.
Yeah, because like that's its main audience right there, right?
What? You're telling me this thing wasn't released in the UK at all, and it's about
it wasn't even released in Canada.
Why are Hollywood people so
not even? I thought at least it got a North American release, so it didn't even get even. Oh, okay, that makes sense. There's 1,000 theaters right there.
Whatever Lionsgate negotiated with, I guess, Amazon, was not a great deal on the box office side of things. And
that
even
is a horrible deal. Yeah.
I bet you if it did have a full North American release in the UK, it probably only would have taken in maybe 26.
Well, what's sad is it got beat by movies that have been out for like 3 weeks and shit, like Kong.
It really did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Southern Bell's in the house. Hopefully you're feeling better, Southern Bell. Spends in 5. So Henry got his start when he was young in Monte Cristo. I remember that. I brought that up. Yep. Then the UK TV series, Linley, if I said that right. Mm-hmm. It didn't help Witcher, didn't stick to the source. Oh, no, but the show was successful. I would say Witcher more so because of him. Because watch, the success of that show went out the door when he left. So I mean, I'm not saying he doesn't have an audience. They're just, I don't think they're willing to follow him to a theater. Like who was it, Nick or Price, who brought up Momoa? Right, Momoa is
I
a good
did.
case
I
study
did.
in this because he is a much worse actor. Let's be fucking real. I'm not even trying to be mean.
Oh,
He
yeah.
just can't. He's not even on the same caliber, right?
No.
Like I can
Yeah.
see Cavill doing like stage work. I could never picture Momoa out there going, like, art thou cool?
It would be
Doing
funny though. It would be
Shakespeare.
funny.
It would be hilarious. But
Hilarious. Imagine him doing Shakespeare. Momoa doing Shakespeare. That's funny.
it's pretty
It would be.
badass.
I mean, his most famous role, he had to grunt in Game of Thrones. Like he didn't say anything really.
Which is probably why they had him grunt in Game of Thrones, because everybody else is talking all like British this and that and the other around him, and he's like, "Yeah, that's right, guys." We're like, yeah, we can't have him talking.
Thomas
Neither
Connor
is Clark.
Jr. That which thou art, fuffle face.
Can he do a British accent? Badassery. How's that?
He was good in Game of Thrones though.
No, I know. I'm just picking on him. I don't mean
No,
to pick on
it's.
him.
I agree with you. He
I
didn't
mean,
say
I do mean
anything.
to pick on him, but I mean,
He
Yeah, he
didn't
doesn't
say
have
anything,
to.
but I think that was probably his best acting. Was probably in Game of Thrones.
So he's got the mastery
Yeah.
of mime, which is the lowest form of acting.
so what I'm saying is, though, Henry does have an audience. I just don't think it's as fervent or
I think-
supportive or loyal.
It's strong in the
as-
wrong area. That's the
Yeah.
thing. It's strong
I
on
think
social media.
there's-
It's not strong in person. So that's the problem he's got to rectify.
I think there's a thread here we should touch on, and it's something that I've seen with a lot of things. I won't say it's everything, but it's a lot of things. What's popular on social media doesn't always translate into sales. We've seen this with a lot of things. We've seen it with people who are big on Instagram or Twitter, and then they go on do something for Hollywood, and a lot of times it doesn't translate. We've seen it happen where, even like it happens with modern comics. Like they'll get prepped up as, look at this big thing people are into. Then you look at the sales and they don't translate. And look at Batwoman. When Batwoman was trending, quotation marks, all over social media, but then you look at the ratings, no one watched it. It's clear that there's a conversation that needs to be had about what social media is as far as audiences, because just because people talk about something doesn't mean that they are giving the dollars to it, because
Correct.
those things do
Mhm.
not translate. And I feel like to an extent, social media, I'm starting to see more and more, is a little bit of a smoke and mirrors thing.
Right.
It's mostly a communication aspect. It's not very reflective of true audience opinion or even a
It's
true gauge
not.
of audience.
It's not,
It's-
and yet we're still
It's
relying
also
on it.
expensive. So it's also really expensive.
I'm
So
sure.
anytime a movie is made, they have to create a
Mhm.
Twitter, social media, and Instagram and web page, and those things have to be run technically in perpetuity, which means that the
Mhm.
prices rack up. If they didn't do that, then obviously an individual would just opt the title of that film, that movie, and then run the count themselves to gain whatever popularity they want in direct, what have you. So it's basically a rights protection thing. But the fact of the matter is that it's the engagement that actually benefits a film on social media are likes, reposts, and replies.
Mhm.
Anything else is completely useless. Like the TDS, he is doing a great job finding all those bots. But the thing is that
Mhm.
all they're getting is views. They're not getting engagement, which means that he's exposing the fact that bots are actually very useless when it comes to trying to promote or change the narrative of their product, because
Yeah.
them getting views is meaningless without engagement.
Yes.
And that's how you have this manipulation, and that's probably what's actually really hurting, whether it be Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Truth Social, was it Threads or whatever. Those things don't actually do anything if there's not actual real engagement. So in order to sort of really build up your success towards a film, you've got to go old school. You got to go newspaper ads, radio ads, TV, YouTube ad placement videos. You've got to hit ads on streaming network. Heck, do freaking skywriting if you have to. Like, you've got to actually do stuff where people are going to be, because people aren't really on social media. They're social media is a very passive it's a weird hybrid between passive and active. You're there, but you're not really fully there. You're able just to, repost, retweet, post something quick, and then discard and move on to something else, watching a TikTok video, what have you. But when you go to, like, say, a sporting event, you are there. You're paying attention. You run a commercial ad on the big, Jumbotron there. People are going to watch it. People are going to be like, oh, that's out. Ooh, and if that's good, they'll watch it. Same thing with their television. If they're not leaving for the washroom or grabbing something from the kitchen, they're seeing a commercial for a new television show or movie or a product that they might need. It's once we can find to recapture that again, then other things will start to fall into place. We'll have a better metric for things. Things that are legitimately popular will be actually popular, and it won't be all these pseudos, these bot farms, these false engagement parts. I mean, let's put it this way: getting towards another topic. Rebel Moon has been out for a week, and it has not once trended in the top 30 of entertainment trending news.
But I'm being told it's number 1
on Netflix. It probably is. But when it comes to engagement, like, here's the other part too. Even if they were using bot farms, they're clearly not using them enough because it's not trending. Rebel Moon Vert 1 was at least trending for at least a day. Part 2, nothing. Not once.
Yeah, I think this is something that mainstream Hollywood needs to definitely get in touch with. That either they need to drop social media as how to engage what audiences want, or reevaluate how they use social media, because how they've been using it to gauge an audience is clearly, for the most part, not translating.
Correct.
And then we got Southern Belle.
So go ahead. Yes, no, please.
Southern Belle following up here with Henry is more reliable than most up and coming. Yeah, I think we can agree with that.
In terms of talent, sure. Unfortunately, though, the audience is not showing up, and it doesn't. That's something we got people. I think there's a slight misunderstanding in the chat. We're not talking about whether we like his skill or not. We're talking about based on, are his movies doing well? Whether they are good or not is obviously another subject of discussion. Well, we're talking about, are these movies bringing in the butts and the seats? And the problem is that they're not.
And I think Mikey said it best with comparing him to Margot Robbie, somebody who has had tons and tons of opportunities, just hasn't quite. I mean, Barbie might be the exception, but we have to see how her next movie does after Barbie. Because I think he might be right that Barbie is the exception because of Barbie, not because of her. Alabama Wyatt.
Even the Tanya Harding movie, she didn't get an Oscar for that. Yeah. Allison Janney did, and she was the supporting character.
Yeah, I mean, she hasn't had her. I mean, she's had her Harley Quinns and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, she should be able to open a movie that's not an IP. We'll see. Alabama Wyatt sends in 2 and says, "Is Cavill a real man like Clint Eastwood?" I would think so.
Well,
not as manly.
But no male actor in Hollywood is technically a real man by the standards that you guys out there would think. They're not.
Probably right.
It's just a persona. John Wayne was not really a real man. He was, I mean, listen, he liked to do some things that people would argue are masculine, but he cared a lot about, drama, sensitivity, moving people.
I don't know. Even at 93, I still wouldn't walk up to Clint Eastwood and say he's not a real man without
I think Clint's
to get punched in the face.
Clint Eastwood is a real man. I don't know why you would say he is.
He can convince you of that, but listen, I know the stories around him. Like, not saying that they're feminine or anything of that nature. It's just that they care more about the art and the presentation of masculinity as opposed to embodying it.
Oh, he's definitely
that is not a bad thing either. If that's the case, if you care about the presentation of the art, that's fine, because that means you're caring about the medium in which you're involved in. If that's the case, I still have no complaints about Clint Eastwood, because at the end of the day, I want you to have a good movie.
Charles Bronson was a man.
Oh, yeah.
He was.
I heard he's a wild man.
However, he was also a type of guy who's like, he wished he was strong enough to actually be able to do some of the things he did in his movies. Like, that was the other part too, he said.
Oh, of course.
But like Clint Eastwood, like a lot of them, listen, if they're on the tour and they're promoting the stuff for the film, they'll do the guys. But when they're at home, they'll do whatever they want, whether it's being like a dork or their silly hobbies or things that we would probably look at and be like, really, you're into that?
Sean Connery. Sean Connery was a man. You have to acknowledge that.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, he was. Well, yeah, you know what? Given the amount of women that complain about him, yes, I'd say that'd make him a man.
That was
Come on, Sean Connery is a man. You can't take that away from him.
I could definitely, I can see that Sean Connery too.
Kalekioki sends in 5 and says Cavill needs to move into other roles. He's played the British action star in many roles, both as a hero and a villain. Needs to show he has range. That's true. He hasn't really
If he could do a romantic
gone.
comedy, that might actually
Yeah.
help him out. Because you know what's sad? Glenn Powell has more star power right now than Henry Cavill.
You're probably
Then
right.
Kalecki sends in another 5 and says if he's creative enough, he might need to make his own IP. Everything he's passionate about was taken from him. Superman, Witcher looks like Warhammer. Yeah, I don't know where Warhammer's going, but it sounded like he was going to have at least some say over the Amazon features or shows or whatever. But we'll see how that rolls. Nikki D sends in 5 and says, "What are your thoughts on Jerry Seinfeld's recent statements that movies are over?" Well, he's not really wrong. I mean, that's kind of the conversation we've been having the whole time. I mean, if Henry has anything majorly in his defense, is that movies as a whole just aren't exactly what they used to be. I mean, look at this last weekend's box office. It's probably one of the poorest we've had in a
Was it like
string of
68
poor
million or something
weekends.
like that?
Yeah, it was horrible. They didn't even crack 100 million, and that's like what, the third or fourth time this year alone where they haven't done that
Yeah, that is
in recent
bad.
years.
Well,
So
the other
yeah.
part too is who in Hollywood is trying to compete with all the other options out there? Nobody. They're not doing enough in the effort. They're not getting anything that
Well,
gets
they're competing
people.
with themselves on the streaming side of things, basically. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. But I'm talking about the fact that the youthful audience right now, they care more about the short videos of YouTube, Rumble, TikTok,
Yeah.
Instagram, those things. How can you pull them away on something that is longer than 90 seconds?
Yeah, especially when
That's
that
the
becomes
that's
a
the trick.
habit. Yeah, that's.
I mean, even though there's Quibi that launched, which is actually kind of ahead of its time, but nobody wanted stuff like that, and then it failed.
Mhm.
And nowadays, it's like, well, now it's basically just TikTok, essentially.
Yeah. Well, we
And
talked a little bit about this earlier. Sorry, you had more to
go
say,
right,
Script?
yeah, it's your show.
Well, no, I was just going to say, let's get into the Deadpool stuff because here we are. Well, we talked about Henry a lot longer than I anticipated.
Hey,
Yeah, we
I'm
got.
just glad Zack Snyder's name didn't come up.
Well, we
Oh,
got
Yeah, you
past it
had to
without
say
even getting into it.
it.
Yeah, you brought it up.
Just don't.
We brought up a
Shit.
little Rebel Moon, but we kind of skirted past it. But look, at the end of the day, if there's any film this year that probably has a chance of being successful, we're looking at it right here. So, Mikey,
Yeah.
what did you think of this recent? I guess you'd call it an internet trailer because Andre was the first person to notice it didn't have a band in the front of it.
Nope.
Right.
Meaning it didn't have a green or a red band. So that means it's probably not going to be shown in theaters.
Right.
So what was your reaction, Mikey?
And it started off good and then ended weird. I don't know, man. I mean, am I going to go see it? Probably not. Probably, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't think this thing's going to do $1 billion by a long shot.
No, it's not.
Really?
No, it's not gonna
No,
do it.
hell no. There's no way this thing's doing $1 billion.
I'm thinking 7.
Yeah, I'm thinking 6 to 8 at best.
Hmm.
Of course,
That's
I was
based on-
wrong, Tom. You were right about every time we've done this. You beat me and been more right. Like you were right about fucking Barbenheimer and all that shit. And I mean, you've been
I'm
right
not
about.
so sure on this one. This one I'm kind of going.
Dude,
It all
there's
depends.
no way this thing's gonna do more than 6,800. There's no way. Number one, you've got superhero fatigue in general. Number two, you got Marvel fatigue. Number three,
got
the last
Disney
one of the
distaste right now.
what?
You have Disney distaste. A lot of people.
Yeah,
just
no, I was
refuse to
just
go
getting
see
to that.
Disney
Number
films.
three, you've got an overall overall dysfunction for anything. That studio hasn't hit a number. Disney and all of its subsidiaries have not hit a decent number in forever. This will not be any exception. Ryan Reynolds will not save Marvel and will not save Disney, and this will not be $1 billion winner. There's no mathematical way that I see this happening.
I think it could, but it's going to be
When this
only
comes
on the
out,
merits of
in
the
order
film.
for this to hit $1 billion, I'm going to have that vibe of wanting to see it more than once, in my opinion.
That's what I mean. People are going to have to like it as much as they like Spider-Man.
And I don't see any way on God's
No Way
green
Home.
earth that's going to happen.
After this trailer, I think you guys might be right. But go ahead, Price. You're about to say something there.
I agree with Mikey. I think that $600 to $800 million is fair. $1 billion, that would be unless people go to it initially, and it is such a good movie. It is so good. Then maybe there'll just be a situation where you have to go see it. But I don't know, man. I don't know if they can pull this off. And yeah, all the things around it. I tend to agree with Mikey. 600 to 800 seems like the right number.
Mm. Yeah. Well, Nick, what did you think of it? Because you're our comic guy today, since
Uh,
Klobby wasn't able to join us.
it was a fine trailer. And no, and I mean, like, it was fine. It was not bad. It was fairly entertaining. I have a lot of hesitance because of the 800,000 preconceived notions that we all have, but on its own merits, it was not a bad trailer. It was pretty good. I'd say if I had to give it a 1 out of 10, I'd say it was like a 7 for a trailer. I did like, some of the obviously the nod to Rob Liefeld's Just Feed being a nod to him and his controversy of drawing or not drawing feet in his drawing. So I thought that was cool. And of course
Can't draw
there's
feet.
nods. What's up?
He can't draw feet. That's
Yeah,
the
you can't.
problem.
Yeah. So it's a fine trailer. I will most likely go see this, as it seems like enough people have shown interest in me singing and speak about it. I could speak confidently about this movie from a place where I know what I'm talking about. So I'll see it for that perspective for the audience. Yeah, I think, man, this is a tough one. As far as, I don't think, now I don't know what we're considering a bomb as far as this movie being a bomb. I mean, are we considering 500 million a bomb in this case, or, and I'm not saying it's going to do it low, but what are we considering breaking even, or what are we considering a bomb here?
Depends on if Disney spent used the same metric they used on their other Marvel films for this, or if they used the
Mhm.
Fox metric to
And we
pay
still
for it.
don't have that information
Right.
right? Okay,
Because if this
so
is if they use the Fox metric, then $500 million would pay for itself. If they use the Disney
yeah,
metric,
so
you need 1.5 to pay for it.
Well, and
yeah,
that's the
okay.
thing that we were talking about
We
earlier.
have
Is
no idea what we're going off of there. But if
this movie doesn't feel like the way the first two movies were sold to us.
it's because
I mean,
it's not. I think they
it's
made it a
not.
point for
And
it to not be that way.
my big point about this trailer yesterday morning was it feels like they're desperately trying too fucking hard in this trailer to go,
I think they kind
look,
of have
kids,
to.
it's R rated. Look, kids, we've got
Mhm,
gore. Look, kids, we got rid of the sleeves.
mhm.
Look, kids, Hugh Jackman is in this movie, despite we didn't put him in the other trailer. It's like, yeah, like all these things that were just kind of like desperation moves, and it did kind of come off as desperate.
Mhm. It's because it is,
Yeah,
Tom.
because
You're
people were saying
100%. They are actually trying very hard to put butts in the seats for this one. They need to. And I'm not saying this to defend them, but I feel like they had to do a trailer like that, because if they had a trailer that just looked like a big meh without them even putting an effort in, I feel like it would be even worse for the situation than it already is.
What were you
I
gonna
I
say, Price?
I was
Oh,
going to say
sorry,
that
man.
after the first trailer, and I heard you say it a number of times here on this show, you were saying maybe Wolverine isn't in it so much. Maybe we're not really going to see Wolverine. It'll just be a minor appearance, or yeah, that's the thing. People were whispering that maybe it's. See, nobody has faith in Disney and their stupid brand now. So what
Mhm.
happens is that you see a movie like this, instead of thinking, oh, okay, they don't want to show all the good stuff, they want us to go to the movie. Now we're thinking, oh, it's a bait and switch. Instead of Wolverine, it'll be some woman Verine or whatever it is. Then we don't even know anymore. So I think this time, like what Nick just said, they're just like,
Mhm.
we have to show that he's here. Let's show that there's action. Let's show that
Mhm.
there's blood. There was like a blood splat. This is 100% R. They're cursing. This is a badass movie. We got to get people, to get excited about it. And at the end, it goes back to what you're saying, Tom, that because of all of this desperation with Disney and all of their stupid things, somehow the marketing of the movie is suffering, because
Mhm.
rather than Ryan Reynolds doing his cool kind of rogue marketing of whatever he likes to do, now somehow Disney is weighing him down with this kind of having to get the crowd excited that's not excited anymore. Basically, by the time they attached him to the MCU was crap. The whole time was like, oh, Deadpool is going to join the MCU. But now I think him being part of the MCU is actually not good for him.
Price, it's because there's now you're speaking on another issue on top of another issue. When Marvel Disney got the rights to the 20th Century Fox properties of X-Men and Fantastic Four, whatever plans that they originally had, beginning Phase 4, they should have changed them. They still had the high and the goodwill of fans after Endgame. They should, whatever plans they had, should have been adjusted to say, okay, we need to get an X-Men movie. We need to get a Fantastic Four movie. Maybe we'll do a Wolverine movie or a Deadpool movie or put them together. They should have got those right away. But instead, you know what they respond with? Eternals, Soy Chi, Doctor Strange and the Mom. They gave us all these Earth things. And unfortunately, like originally wanted a Strange sequel, but we all saw how that turned out. What I'm trying to get at is they did this at a really bad time. They should have got this stuff to work on in 2019, had to release for the first things after the pandemic. Had this stuff been released alongside the lines of Spider-Man No Way Home, this would have been maybe keeping the MCU and still on stronger legs. But they're releasing this stuff now at a point where they're trying to use it now to come back rather than, hey, we have the goodwill of the fans still. Let's keep this going now that we have two of some of the hottest properties that we were dreaming of having, and some of the most essential properties of Marvel history. Like, I mean, you look at the 80s and 90s, the hottest property in Marvel was the X-Men. And rather than saying we need to lean in on that, no, they shelved it. What a dumb move. Now I'm saying this as someone who's probably, I guess you could say I'm not like a huge X-Men guy. I'm just judging this by, hey, this is what fans like. This is what the market leans toward. Capitalize on it. I'm more of an F4 guy, but let's pretend I don't like the F4. Okay, fine. Do people want those characters? Yes. Do people want them adapted faithfully? Yes. Okay, we'll get it going.
They didn't want to get it going because they had all
Oh.
their stupid, sorry, lack of a better term, all their woke stuff. And only now, when they really became desperate, when they really understood that nothing is working for them, that all of that Immortals and Soy Chi and whatever you were talking about, and Marvels, all that stuff, they knew that it was all a flop. Then they rolled it out. I mean, Ryan Reynolds was years waiting for some kind of announcement from Disney. They kept on stringing him along and doing all this crap. This should have been announced years ago, and they should have really put an emphasis and really pushed it. And instead, they only did it when they're desperate, and their marketing looks desperate. And
well,
I don't know.
It has to look desperate because you gotta let people know it's gonna be an R movie. You gotta let them know that it's gonna have the language and fonts. I'm not gonna knock on them for that. I'm gonna be fair there. It kind of needs it because there's a lot of skepticism about an R movie with Disney. So you got to lean in to make people know, okay, yes, this is not going to be watered down. Could it end up being bait switch? Maybe. I don't think it is, though. I actually don't think it is. I have a feeling this movie people will like. Now, I'm not talking about in terms of money, but I'm talking about the people who do say it. I think they're going to like it. I think the issue is that I think it's going to be an anomaly. I think it's going to be that movie that people like, but whatever money it makes, whether it's profitable or breaks even, is just there to exist to fund the other crap movies.
Yeah. I don't think they're learning any lessons. This is just an act of desperation to try to do something, but I don't think they're sitting there learning any real lessons as much as trying to put out a fire.
This is an island in a sea of piss. That's what I said yesterday, basically. Yeah.
It's a short-term gain. It's a short-term gain to say, look, see, we're back now. Everything's fine. But then you got to remember what comes after. There's an Agatha show. There's a maybe not Ironheart show. There's the F4 movie. Yeah, there's with Pedro Pascal.
Did they keep reshooting?
You got Daredevil Born Again on its mighty reshoot. You got Captain America for the Great Reset. You got all these things here that are going to balance that back out. So, like, that's the thing. When you look at Deadpool and Wolverine in isolation, okay, fine, cool, awesome, great. Let's see how this turns out. But everything else that follows is a problem. It's, once again, it's a short-term win. If it wins, it'll be short-term at that. It's nothing with a long game plan.
No, that's true. And the fact of the matter is nothing is going to change so long as the current regime at Disney is in power. Again, studios only switch gears when the old guard is out and the new guard comes in and says, hey, we need to switch gears.
And that guard is super gate capped. I mean, big league gate capped. Like I said, folks, it might be a fine movie.
20 years. He's not going anywhere.
Nope.
So nothing is going to really
Nope.
change. You'll get little peaks of amazing that come out by accident.
And I think this is
you'll
going to be
never
one
get
of them.
anything sustainable. But guess what? Warner Brothers is taking the reins away from Disney right now, which means that the rest of Hollywood's going to start following their protocols if they get another big box office win this year. And that's inevitable at this point. So I mean, that's good for the industry right now. And don't get me wrong. This year and next year is going to be tough. It's going to be mixed. There's going to be some great movies that come out that probably are not going to perform as well as we'd like them to. We're going to get a couple of shows that are going to suck, but that's just really just weeding out the things that are of deals that are already set in motion long before that. And then we're probably going to see a significant turnaround where we're going to be like, wow, there's a lot less shows to pick from, but of the less shows to pick from, there's far more that are good than what we had 3 years ago or 4 years ago or 5 years ago. That's the right direction that needs to happen. And ideally, that's probably going to be the likely outcome.
Yeah.
Like the boat has turned now. It just needs to start picking up speed.
I hope that boat steers. I hope it steers strongly. I hope it steers mighty, and I hope it steers hugely. So, because
I do hit any bridges on the way.
Yes, I just want it to be a nice, smooth sail, just really, really nice, smooth sailing.
All right. Anybody got anything else to say about Deadpool 3 yet?
It will make more money than Rebel Moon Part 2.
No doubt there.
That one didn't even go to theaters, did it?
I just want to thank you. I just want to thank the Midnight's Edge, Tom Connors and his revolving cast of Midnight's Edge After Darkers over the last several years for taking me from being a hardcore Snyder bro ho. Because remember, Tom, when I first came on, do you remember?
Oh yeah.
Tom remembers. Nick, you remember?
Oh, I remember. You and I clashed up a little bit.
I remember what a Snyder bro ho I was. Like you would have thought like that boy was giving me some Rebel Moon injections even back then. But I just want to thank Tom Connors and the cast of Midnight Edge After Dark for supporting my recovery efforts.
Well,
first I had to admit,
this is a safe place.
Right, I had to admit that I had a problem. Then I had to admit that my life had become unmanageable as a Snyder bro ho. Yeah, those are the first two steps. Those first two steps are the toughest.
We're still here for you. If you ever need any extensive, rehab.
I mean, now watching to what he puts out and listening to what he says, I'm like, God, I was such an idiot.
No, don't say that. Now that's too far.
Groups.
Okay, you may be a great YouTuber, but you are not an idiot. Okay,
wait, hold on. That wasn't a compliment. Wait, I see what you did there, Nick.
Mike was seduced by the glitz, which is not something to really blame him for. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are some visuals there that I can definitely see a lot of people liking. But
I can
when a guy like
the
Snyder
glitz or the
out,
cocaine,
who knows? But when a guy like Snyder goes out and says, a point against me is a point for the focus group. The focus group is a sample of your audience. If your audience is saying no, you are the problem, not them. He literally has said, I mean, him saying that directly is far worse than you'll get out of any of the higher studio heads that have made accusations about fans in such an ambiguous way that they could argue not insulting you. Zack Snyder couldn't even do that. He literally said the fans suck.
Let me put it in another way. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go for it. Yeah.
No, finish your thought.
He literally said the fans suck. Like, that's it. He says, a vote for me is a vote for the focus group, which means that you're not going to get someone who's actually creative. Well, he's not creative. And you want to know why he's not creative? Because he said this.
Dirty Dozen, Seven Samurai, and Star Wars in Space.
Star Wars in Space, yeah, I remember that.
I was just gonna say, look at it this way: M. Night Shyamalan's career is in better shape than his.
Yeah, That should tell you something. That should tell you something.
At
Why?
least M. Night's still making theatrical films.
You know what? Snyder is exactly in the best setup for Snyder. First of all, he's already made a ton of money from all these movies, more than he ever deserved. And these Netflix deals are very lucrative. And this is the perfect situation. Instead of showing box office receipts, you just say, "Oh, it was on the list. It was on the top 10, whatever it is." It's a lot better for Snyder and his narratives. So actually, Netflix is the best thing that ever happened to Snyder. It's a match made in heaven for him.
You're not wrong there. We got
Hope
Rick
Christina will
Carrera.
be proud of you for saying that.
Yeah, that's right, Sadie. Rick Carrera has become a new member. Thank you so much, Rick. And they got Nikki D in the house who says, "Is it true that Agatha's show will be LGBTQIA plus Wonderland?" That's a rumor I've been reading lately. Yeah, I think Andre was even saying that a while back. At least that's the rumor going around about the show.
It would not be
anyway.
a surprise if that ends up being the case.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
I
Be
mean, it's not
surprised.
going to be his baldface on it, but it's going to be there. That's the
I'm
other part.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure Agatha will be as memorable as Echo, and it'll be
She was
forgotten
gay all
about after a
along.
week. Yeah, it'll be forgotten about after a week, the same way Echo was, and then it'll be a memory of the past.
Echo.
The Echo didn't even get an echo. That's the problem.
And Gonzalo Bergali's been here for 25 months. Thank you so much for that, Gonzalo. We appreciate the support.
There's one thing they did with Echo that nobody ever talks about that until this day baffles me. That before Echo, there was
They
sort
actually
of
released it.
No, that was baffling. But then there was like a logo that said Marvel something else. I don't know what Marvel, and it had like a private label. It was like called something else. And then Feige said, "Yeah, this isn't the regular Marvel. These are just more kind of personal stories." Like they didn't want you to even think it's part of the MCU, so they added a logo at the beginning, which you may never see again. You've never seen it before.
Like
You'll
Marvel
never see it again.
Knights, but I'm trying to remember what it was.
Kind of like Elseworlds or whatever. You know, they had something. I'm not saying it's Elseworlds, but I'm saying it said something. They wanted to differentiate it from the rest of the MCU, and I think that the only reason they did that because they knew it was terrible.
Yeah, I remember. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah, I thought it was Marvel Knights, but I could be wrong. They're saying Marvel Knights,
I'm trying to
or
think.
Marvel Spotlight or something like that.
Yeah, Marvel Spotlight, something like that. That's probably their way of saying like when it's super diverse and they're doing something, and they're shedding a spotlight, or who knows what. But I feel like we're never gonna see that logo again.
Oh, we
Unless
will,
they
but
think it's
only on
bad.
certain things. Yeah, I was gonna say we will only on certain things. Yeah,
only if they know they have a stinker, they'll be like, well, Ironheart will be Marvel Spotlight. Yeah.
Will that ever come out?
It's supposedly done.
It's been done for over a year.
It's been done for over a year. They haven't written it off for tax purposes yet. So ideally, it's
I can't believe that. And yeah, they're saying Marvel Spotlight, which can't remember who it was. I want to give them credit for it, but there was it Uscript or somebody else who was almost insinuating that a lot of the stuff that does end up coming out under that isn't only going to be stuff that isn't considered necessarily canon, but will be very LGBTQ heavy or something like that. Somebody said that. If it wasn't you, it was I'm trying to remember who it was, but yeah.
It doesn't sound familiar to me.
But yeah, just because of the Spotlight name and all that kind of business.
Well, wasn't the that black and white horror thing a Marvel Spotlight as well?
I don't think that was under. They don't think they had that yet. I think Echo was the first. I think Nick's right. I think Echo was the first time they actually used the logo.
I think it was me that said it, but yeah.
Was it you, Price? I knew somebody.
No, I'm saying no. Just now, you're like Nick was right. I think I said it.
No, yeah, Price
sorry.
said the Spotlight thing was the first.
I didn't mean like 3 months ago. I mean like now, a minute ago. It was me.
I thought Nick brought it. I don't remember anymore. It's getting late in the show, and I got Sadie over here telling me such things.
That's what that's what happens, Tom, when you stream 24/7.
I know. Well, actually, I've been backing off on a lot of it lately, but
Culture is now the new streaming king.
He's the new stream king.
Tom averages 8 to 11 hours per day. Culture averages 16 to 23.
Yeah, Culture's got me beat by far. So yeah. But anyway, that being said, we've got over 700 people watching between Twitter or X and YouTube. So I want to thank y'all for being here. Been an excellent crowd tonight. And since we got more people here than we had in the intro, I'm going to play our intro once again on the way out because it's our brand new one. I want to hear what you guys think about it. Let me know Take care of yourselves and each other. So let's go around real quick. Price, what you got coming up?
At 9 p.m., I'm going to be on Diabolical Souls with Gooch and a few other people. And Gooch is a guy. That's a real name of a person. And it's going to be episode 7, I believe, of Scavenger's Reign. So that's cool. And then at 11:45 p.m., I'm going to be doing the Night Owl stream with my friend Dread Roberts.
Wow.
And you
Nick.
should I have Price of Reason Live and Price of Reason the regular one, and if people want to subscribe, they can subscribe to one, to both of them, or either or both or whatever.
They're kind of a pair though, like tits. Nick, we're going to be talking about some Smokey and the Bandit here.
Yes, sir. Under 40 minutes, Toxic Tuesday, the conclusion of our Burt Reynolds month, and we're going out with a speed bang. Smokey and the Bandit, please come hang out. We are having a blast on Toxic Tuesday talking classic Burt Reynolds. And this is, well, to me, saving the best for last. So please come hang out. It's going to be a toxifyingly great time. Comic Shop Talk this Friday. We'll be talking ASM, Stanley John Romita Sr. era, and I'll have a video on a well, let's just say that back in the day, Marvel believed in customer service, and they even had a Bill of Rights. And I have a video to back it and prove it, and we're gonna go over that and show the current day pros what they should learn from that. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. And yes, thanks for being here, chat. Thanks for having me, Tom. Good to hang out with you and the panel. Yeah, I hope to see a lot of you on Toxic Tuesday for Smoking the Bandit.
Yes, this will send you over there. And Mikey, anything you got coming up?
No, I am learning about this new thing called YouTube and how it works. Hi.
All right. And Script, anything coming up besides your Patreon and your scripts on Saturdays? Anything else special?
No, nothing on the docket as of yet, aside from hanging out with Price on Thursdays, watching some classic Quantum Leap. Yeah.
There you go. So with that, check out everybody on the panel, and I'm going to play this as we go out one more time. Let me know what you think. Take care.
We're gonna get a little bit crazy, wild and maybe even vulgar, if you please.